Be the truth, know the truth. And when you walk in truth, then people resonate around the truth. But you also have to fight for the truth.
Spirituality, particularly for people of color, is very important. It's our spirituality that saved us from what we've been dealing with all these years. You know, it's a belief in something outside of yourself that is going to take care of you. The Black community is really connected to the church. You know, the church was the central piece in Black communities for many, many years and continues to be. Just like the Catholic Church and the Latinx community, it means something. It is something to hold on to. So we have to have people talk about that. Because what does that mean for them in their lives? I'm probably a social worker because of my experience of growing up in the church. The church that I was raised in on the south side of Chicago, the First Presbyterian Church of Chicago, was a church that was steeped in social justice. I grew up during the times of the Civil Rights Movement, and so it was the church that was doing community organizing. It was working with the street gangs in Chicago. MLK talks about the church being a drum major for social justice. When politicians, Black politicians, are running for office, where do they come to? They come to the church, and they give, they do their outreach there, they do speeches there. The Civil Rights Movement was birthed out of the church.
It's a double-edged sword when it comes to the Black community and spirituality. When we grow up, your parents tell you what happens in this house, stay in this house, there's lots of secrets because everyone taught you the truth is wrong. If you tell the truth, you get in trouble. We've all just been denied the truth in our lives. But spirituality tells you that the truth shall set you free. And so that is where the mind gets damaged because you don't know whether to pray about it or to seek therapy. The one thing this world can't take from us is our humanity. And humanity to me is grounded in spirituality because what makes us humans is what makes us spiritual. Our natural reaction to jump in and help someone when crisis happens. And those are the things that tie me back to God, not the man-made spirituality. I am not religious by any means, but I am very spiritual to the place that I know who my Father is. I know what I'm called to do, and that is to be a good human, to be a good person, to be what I expect of other people.
Mental health and spirituality go together. They worked, in tandem to one another in terms of supporting a person's emotional and social well-being. It's a coping mechanism. It means something. If you don't have your faith, if you don't have your God or your Buddha, who do you go to in difficult times, in challenging times? If nothing else, you can pray. When my people, my ancestors were separated from their children, from their loved ones, where did they go? They went to moaning and groaning, but that's a spiritual movement.
I use my spirituality as a way to engage in my practice of mindfulness. I feel connected to the earth. It's a part of my spirituality to believe that I am connected to the earth.
Easy to forget that when we are living in these urban cities now, buildings all around us and no grass, no greenery. You aren't able to connect to your spirituality. And so that's something you have to do purposely, with intent every single day.
There's one point to understand that you're having a mental health challenge, but there's another thing to do something about it and take an active role in healing yourself.
There's a high growth in spiritual gurus and practitioners who lead moon circles or sound healing events, ancestral trainings on how to use herbs or crystals. And I saw a lot of those practices in Ghana. I think that what is currently happening is a reconnection to tribal history and practices that are rooted in nature. Those really do come from our ancestors and our tribes. And there's this level of the colonizing culture. White Jesus was a heavy presence in Ghana. White Jesus remains a heavy presence. For me, because I'm spiritual and not religious, Jesus isn't white. When I was in Ghana, to also see that he's visualized by that community as the image that's perpetuated in America was very interesting.
If you really get down to the nitty-gritty of the psychological aspect of it, it is a white Jesus complex. It is a white savior complex, which also goes into the victim mentality that we have of we need to be equal to these people need to treat us better. My personal outlook on that is, If my grandfather had to ask them to treat us better, if my father had to ask them to treat us better, I'm not gonna be the one to ask. Like, that is just way too many years. If they don't care, they don't care. I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna work with the community that I can actually build. What got me to think that way is delivering myself from that scarcity and that survival mode.
I think that a lot of the mental illness that exists in the Black community is a little bit wrapped up in religion. For us to have a lot of negative narrative against the gay community in the Black community, that leads to higher levels of mental illness for those particular people who are experiencing that lack of connection to their culture and their community. If you read and you know history and you make the effort to know more about your history, how much a part religion played in the control of the Black community and the mindset of the Black community to keep us oppressed on purpose. So when you have that awareness, of course you want to move away from it. Now we lie at this space where we are a faithful community because our faith got us through all the things. But now we're trying to determine what actually that faith is.
Always remember that you can't pour to somebody else what you don't have. You know, that's the whole point of my cup runneth over when you say that from the Bible, because if my cup is runneth over, if I'm running over with blessings, then I could pour it to somebody else. But if I'm not blessed, if I'm not living in my blessing, I can't do anything for anybody else. I can't even do anything for myself.
I believe that the Lord sends people here who have an understanding of the creation in which He made. They have an understanding of the mind, understanding of trauma, and how to help you through it. But you also need someone who understands God, who understands the basis of life, that everybody in this world simply wants to be seen, heard, loved, understood, and given compassion, grace, and mercy when they fall short. That is what changes.
As long as you have faith and a belief and hope, that can be tied to your religion or your spirituality. But as long as you're good to yourself, good to your community, and good to others, you feel a better sense of purpose, and that will lead to better mental health.